I've observed a lot of discussion on the question of whether moral claims are objective or subjective. I think a lot of people are confused about what this debate is even about. I once participated in two debates at the same time. In one debate, I defended objective morality. In the other debate, I was opposed. My position was no different in either debate. Instead, the meaning of objective morality was different. So let me try to add some clarity to this issue. I'll say at the start that I hold that some moral propositions can be objectively true. Though, as I indicated above, some people can be confused by what I mean when I say this. So let me explain. Let me first tell you something that I am not saying, so that those who give my words this interpretation can know that they're likely to misunderstand what I am saying. For some people, defending objective morality means defending the idea that the universe contains some kind of desire-independent, intrinsically prescriptive property that somehow can command that we do or not do certain things. This view holds that some things just are good and others just are bad, that some actions just are right and others just are wrong. I do not think that any such property exists, and in this sense, I deny that there is an objective morality. But I will defend the thesis that moral claims can be objectively true. You see, I hold that all of a person's reasons for doing something or not doing something come from their desires. In other words, to have a reason to do something, one must have a desire that would be served by doing it. The example that I always use, my aversion to my own pain gives me a reason not to put my hand on a hot stove. Now, according to that earlier definition, if I'm saying that all reasons depend on desires, then I'm saying that all reasons are subjective, am I not? Well, consider this. The claim that I have a reason not to put my hand on a hot stove strikes me as a hard fact. It is objectively true. Anybody who denies this is making a mistake about what is real in the universe. My reason not to put my hand on a hot stove is very real. This biological system that's responsible for my aversion to my own pain is as real as my appendix. We have an evolutionary story that we can tell about the development of this aversion to pain. Scientists can study it. Scientists can even come up with ways to influence it. For example, by using a type of drug called a pain reliever. We can use this natural fact that humans have this aversion to pain to explain and predict a long list of things that happen or could happen in the real world. In this, pain has all of the markings of an objective, real thing. And what follows from the fact that pain is an objective, real thing is the fact, and it is a fact, that my reason not to put my hand on a hot stove is an objective, real thing. Let's take a look at another natural fact. My favorite color is black. I know that in one sense, black is not a color, but anybody who would bring that up at this time is being pedantic. There are two uses of the word color, and in one of those senses, black certainly is a color, even if it is not a color in the second sense. Just as there are two uses of the word objective, and for somebody to bring up the first sense, when somebody's obviously talking about the second sense, is just muddying the waters. Here I am using the term color in the first sense, in the sense where black and white and all shades of gray are colors. Is the statement, my favorite color is black, subjective? Well, my favorite color is black falls in the same category as my heart is beating at 60 beats per minute, or my weight is 180 pounds, or my thumb has a scar on it. All of these are objective facts. In reporting my favorite color, I'm doing nothing more than reporting a fact about how my brain is working, just as reporting my pulse is reporting a fact about how my heart is working. Either both claims are capable of being objective or neither of them are, and I would say that both of them are. If I'm saying that all of these types of claims are objective, then is there anything that could be subjective? Have I defined subjectivity out of existence? No, I have not. To explain how objective truth is different from subjective truth, and both types of truth do exist, I'd like to look at an event in which astronomers took a vote and changed the meaning of the word planet. On August 24, 2006, the members of the International Astronomical Union took a vote and, as a result, adopted a new definition of the term planet. According to their new definition, to count as a planet, it must be true that a celestial body must orbit a star, must have sufficient mass to be nearly round, and must have cleaned up its orbit so that there are no other objects of about the same size or larger. On this new definition, Pluto was not a planet because there were a whole lot of Pluto-sized objects or larger in its part of the solar system. What I want to draw your attention to is the fact that astronomers sought to settle this issue by taking a vote. They thought it was perfectly legitimate to settle this issue by taking a vote. But imagine if somebody were to propose taking a vote on whether there was life on Mars or whether the Earth is flat. That would be absurd. These are not the kinds of issues that can be settled by taking a vote. So we are obviously looking at two different kinds of things. There are things like the definition of the word planet, where we can change what is true simply by changing our minds, by taking a vote, or by some similar method. And there are propositions where we cannot change what is true by any such method. There is a fact of the matter, and that's it. We can understand the question of whether morality is subjective or objective as the question of whether moral claims are the first type of claim where truth can be changed by something like taking a vote, or the second type of claim, where we can't change what is true just by changing our minds. Can we make slavery permissible simply by approving of slavery? Or would slavery be wrong even if we decided to approve of it? We must take some care here. We might fall into the mistake of thinking that, for example, Pluto as a planet is subjective, since astronomers changed the truth value of this proposition by accepting the results of their vote in 2006. Before 2006, Pluto as a planet was true, and after 2006, Pluto as a planet was false. It changed its truth value as a result of a vote. So, Pluto as a planet is subjectively true? No. Pluto as a planet is not subjectively true or false. The description of what happened that I gave just a moment ago isn't accurate. Astronomers did not change the truth value of any proposition about Pluto. They changed the words we use in talking about Pluto, but they did not change Pluto. My claim that we had one proposition, the proposition Pluto was a planet, that changed its truth value from true to false because of a vote from the International Astronomical Union is inaccurate. In fact, we have two different propositions. We have the proposition Pluto is a planet that uses the old definition of planet. Then we have a second different proposition that also uses the same letters, Pluto is a planet, but uses the new definition of planet. Pluto is a planet, using the old definition, was objectively true before the vote and remains objectively true today. Pluto is a planet, using the new definition, was objectively false before the vote and remains false today. Neither proposition changed its truth value as a result of the vote. What changed, what the International Astronomical Union voted to change, was which of the two propositions will be our default. Which proposition is our default proposition is a subjective truth. But the truth of each proposition remains objective. So the question of whether morality is objective or subjective boils down to this. Can we alter the truth value of a moral claim simply by deciding? Can we alter the truth value of owning another person as property is wrong from true to false in any way similar to the way we changed the meaning of the word planet? The subjectivist says yes. The subjectivist says we can alter the truth value of the propositions slavery is wrong or rape is wrong just by changing our minds on the matter. We could, perhaps, put this question up for a vote, and if enough people vote that raping another person is morally permissible, or even morally good, then it becomes morally permissible or morally good. This is subjectivism. Now, some subjectivists might protest that even if there is a vote to approve of slavery or rape, that they don't have to accept the vote. But then again, the fact that there was a vote on the meaning of planet did not in itself compel any astronomer to use the new meaning. The subjectivist is still saying that if there was a vote and people accepted the results, then slavery or rape or whatever it is was voted on would change from being wrong to permissible or even obligatory. If somebody says, no, we can't make slavery or rape morally permissible just by changing our minds, then that person is a moral objectivist. They hold that the truth of moral propositions is independent of such judgments, and the truth of moral claims must be discovered. For the objectivist, if a society were to adopt the attitude that slavery or rape is permissible, it would be like voting to accept the claim that the earth is flat. It's still false. It will stay false no matter how many people accept the results of the vote. On this understanding, some of the arguments commonly used to try to show that morality is subjective need a second look. One of the tests that I often hear asks, would it still be wrong if there were no people? A no answer is taken to prove that morality is subjective. Now, take the proposition there are about 8 billion human beings living on Earth. Would that proposition be true if there were no people? Well, no, it wouldn't. Is the proposition subjective? No, it's not. Some objective truths are truths about people, and they would not be true if there were no people. As mentioned above, the proposition that I have a scar would not be true if I did not exist, but that doesn't mean that it is not objectively true. Another argument for the subjectivity of morality says that morality is about likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes are subjective, therefore morality is subjective. However, a person's likes and dislikes, such as the aversion to pain, or their hunger, or their thirst, are no less real than their height, weight, and age. We've evolved an aversion to pain. This evolved aversion to pain provides us with a reason to get each other not to do certain things that would cause us to be in pain. If we didn't have this aversion to pain, then we wouldn't have this reason not to get other people not to do certain things. But our aversion to pain is an objective fact. It's not something that we can change simply by deciding that we no longer have an aversion to pain. People generally, almost all of us, have basic desires that provide the foundation for reasons to secure food and clean water. It is objectively true that people generally have reasons to secure food and clean water. And we can't simply decide not to have reasons to secure food and clean water in the way that we can decide to change the meaning of the word planet. That's what makes having these reasons an objective fact. So people generally have reasons to support those institutions and practices that help people to secure food and clean water. This, too, is an objective truth. To summarize, I believe that there are objective moral facts. By this, I mean that there are moral truths that we cannot change the way that we can change the meaning of planet. Our reasons to oppose the breaking of promises, drunk driving, theft, vandalism, fraud, rape, slavery, murder, genocide, and the like are all very real. There are parts of our community where we can change the truth value of a proposition simply by convention. These practices don't belong in the realm called morality. The proper terms for talking about these practices are custom, culture, fashion, law, and the like. If these things are mistaken for morality, if people talk about customs whose truth value can be changed on a whim, as if they are morality, then that too is a mistake. And just to be clear, customs, culture, fashion, the law, all of these things can be immoral. There can be more and stronger reasons to change these practices than to keep them. And this can be true as a matter of objective fact. I have other videos where I talk about, for example, what it takes for an action to be right or wrong, and the nature of objective value. feel free to check them out. And if you have any questions, comments, or criticisms, please let me know. And enjoy your day.